Hello and welcome. This is the Hands to Heart Center Friday afternoon live stream in partnership with Boston Public Library. My name is Jessi Rosinski and I'll be guiding today's practice. I'm glad to have you here, and before we start, I'll just outline a map of today's practice. We'll start seated on the floor with some centering and breath work that leads into movement. We'll move ourselves into a standing posture for some more movement and wrap up again on the floor with some breath work and relaxation. And so take a moment or two now to get yourself set up in a way that feels most comfortable for you. If you'd like to have some water with you, make sure you have warm enough clothing. Perhaps adjust the lights in your space. Anything that would help you feel settled and ready for practice is really welcome in these moments. And I'm gonna head back to my mat and we'll get started. So again, my name is Jessi. I volunteer with Hands to Heart Center, and I am glad to have some time together today. Since we'll be spending the opening of our time together on the mats in a seated position, I wanted to offer some tips that might be helpful for sitting. So there are many ways to sit. We generally prioritize ways that are symmetrical to the extent available in your body, as well as have an elongated spine and are comfortable. Always really important. So two very common ways of sitting. One is similar to the way I am now, with knees forward and bent, and I'm sitting back on my heels. It's called hero's pose in yoga. Or the other could be a simple cross-legged position with either leg in front. Regardless of what position you choose, at some point you'll probably be called by your body to make an adjustment because any position over time will become tiring. So always feel free to do that. It can be really helpful to raise the hips slightly above the knees so that the hips are a bit elevated. What this does is it creates more stability. It helps the elongation of the spine, the energy flow. I find it also really helpful in being able to sustain position. So there's a few things that you can do. One would be using the yoga block or blocks. Without a block, you might take a few books and stack them up together. Anything that creates a little bit of height. And so if you were in a cross-legged position, what you could do is sit up on the block so that your buttocks are touching the block. Your sits bones, those two bony structures underneath your buttocks, would be connected, and you'd ideally feel equal weight on both. And then if you cross your legs in front of you, you can see that my hips are slightly above my knees. This helps me feel elongation in the spine and even freedom in the head and neck, more space in the belly to be able to breathe. So this can be really helpful. You may also use a block for the other position, hero's pose, by taking the block and placing it between your ankles and sitting back. So again, my body is symmetrical and I can feel the sits bones connecting with the block. And you can see again that the hips are slightly elevated from the knees. For me, I benefit from a little bit more height to take extra strain off the knees. And so what I do is I take blocks on their lowest setting, but I use two of them. They're still between my ankles. And you'll see this gives me a bit of extra height. So those are some ways that you might use the blocks from either of these positions. If blocks aren't available to you or they're not your preference, they feel a little bit too rigid, you can always use a blanket, a towel, a fluffy sweatshirt, a pillow, or cushion. And so I have a blanket today that I can show you some ideas with. What's great about the blanket is it can be, or any fabric, is that it can be customizable more so than the blocks. You can really squish it and fold it in a way that's going to allow you to have the perfect most comfortable setup. So you could simply fold it a few times to give yourself some elevation when sitting cross-legged. And again, making sure you're feeling symmetrical, your whole underside is connected. You might find that that's not quite enough. So for me, I know I would need a little bit more height, so I might roll this up and then have the way to sit cross-legged with a little bit more height and cushioning. And the blanket or fabric could also be used for the hero's pose. I might take my roll or my fold, put it behind my knees, and then sit back and play around with it and see if it feels a little better on your heels. So it's between your heels and buttock, and then sit back. So there are so many ways to use either yoga props or wardrobe or household items to support you. And so I offer these as ideas that might help you feel more stable in a seated posture. So we'll take a moment to set ourselves up. And of course, remember that anything after some amount of time becomes less comfortable, so definitely adjust as needed. So as you choose your symmetrical posture, just let your body settle. It might feel good to take a couple deep breaths. Everything I offer will be possible from this position or a cross-legged position, so you can choose as you'd like. Choose something that feels symmetrical, that feels safe, feels grounding, comfortable. Ideally, where you can feel some ease as well as alertness. Your body has some stability, touching down into parts of the ground or parts of props, as well as some lightness, this idea of the crown reaching up towards the ceiling or sky, space between the earlobes and shoulder blades. Take a deep breath in through the nose and sigh out through the mouth. We'll start with a simple movement to open up the front of the chest and release tension in the back and shoulders. So to do this, you'll want to take your hands and put them into a thumbs up position. Elbows are opened out to the sides. Then go ahead and lift your hands up to about the height of your ears and point the thumbs behind you. So my hands have moved back a little bit. My knuckles are in line with my ears. My thumbs are pointing to the wall behind me. Elbows are open to the sides. And we'll be in this position for several cycles of breath. So start by seeing if there's anything that can soften. Generally, in this posture, in everything we do today, the invitation will be to underdo, to work that less than your capacity. So maybe 80% of what you could do, which is sometimes an unusual instruction in our world, to do something less than our capacity, to underdo something. Let's play around with it today and see how it feels if you'd like. So as the breath keeps moving, what might soften a little bit? Maybe it's the shoulders moving away from the ears. Maybe there's some clenching in the jaw that can be released. Perhaps there's some squeezing in the fingers that could be softened. Check out any tension or strain in the eyes. Elbows out to the sides and also relaxed. Breath moves smoothly. You might let the breath just move in and out naturally. Or if you're someone who enjoys long, slow, deep breaths, it might be a good time to invite those in. In either case, the breath moves steady, the breath moves smoothly. And from here, you might take your shoulder blades, the wings of the back, and move them towards each other and down. So it's like they're moving towards the spine and a little bit lower towards your hips. And when I do this, I notice my whole shoulder structure moving away from the head. My neck feels a little bit more elongated. My hands soften slightly. We'll be here for a few more breaths. Stretching so gently the front of the chest, opening up an often constricted area. And taking the slack out of the muscles in the back between the shoulders. About 2 or 3 more breaths. And here, if anything can soften more, anything can be a little bit more gentle, a little bit more underdone, go for it. After your next exhale, you might reach up and stretch. Feels good to move from side to side. Do that. So whatever your body calls for without too much thinking. Perhaps a deep breath in and out. And then if you'd like, bring the hands down to about shoulder height or framing the face. Let your fingertips, wrists, everything just relax, droop downwards. And from here, with eyes either open or closed, opportunity to have a very, very slow descent of the hands down to the thighs where they can rest. So moving in the slowest motion possible, as if someone were watching, they could barely perceive and detect movement. So the slowest commute possible from the hands, down one from the shoulders to the legs. And use this time to really tune in to the speed and sensation of the body, particularly as it moves so slowly. Mind is tuned in and absorbed, truly focused. This incredibly slow and relaxed descent. And whether your hands have reached the legs or they're still in motion, see if you might soften the eyes a little bit more. So that could be closing them or a soft gaze in front of you. Or even just releasing any strain or tension. And when the hands arrive, and no rush to do so, you'll notice the contact between the hands and the other surface, likely another part of your body, the legs, the lap. Perhaps the hands are touching your clothes or some kind of fabric. You'll notice how that feels. Brow soft. Elongated neck, spaciousness between the earlobes and shoulders. Breath moves in through the nostrils, rushes through the throat, floods the belly with air, nourishing the whole system, and releases on the exhale. You'll feel both sits bones in your symmetrical posture. And notice what other parts of your body are connected with the surface of the ground. Could be the fronts of your shins and fronts of the feet. If you're sitting in hero's pose. If you're cross-legged, notice the calves, the ankles, sides of the feet. All the areas in contact with the ground. Here you are, arriving in this moment in your body. And start to deepen the breath. The breath bridges the mind and the body. So building a smooth and steady bridge as the air comes in through the nostrils, filling up the whole upper cavity and torso with air. And exhale, release and soften. One breath after another. Each breath slightly slower and slightly deeper than the one that came before it. Mind stays connected to the breath, tracing the inhale through the nostrils and the exhale through the nostrils. Spine remains elongated on both the inhale and exhale. Jaw is soft, brows relaxed, and the entire cycle of breath. From here, we'll move into a counted breath. So with the breath slow and steady, you'll breathe in through the nostrils and out through the nostrils, and that is breath 1. The next breath in and out is breath 2. And you'll continue counting in this manner, all the way up from 1 to 7. And when you reach 7, you can count down from 7 to 1. Each complete inhale and exhale is a cycle of breath. And it's not so much a matter of getting to 7 and getting back or doing it a certain number of times. It's more a matter of giving the mind and system a chance to collect and gather itself. So if at any point you lose track of where you are, you're not sure which number, or if you've repeated it, just go back to 1 and start again, because it's simply about providing foundation for collection and organization in the mind. So for just a few moments in silence, you'll count the breath cycles from 1 to 7 and 7 to 1. And that's your framework for guiding the deep, slow breath. Each breath slightly deeper, slightly slower than the one that came before it. And if at any point when you lose count of the breath or lose track of the order, simply begin again. This supports yourself in achieving focus, cultivating concentration, gathering, collecting the mind, settling the body. And after your next exhale, release the count and control of the breath. Pause for just a moment. Notice how you feel. Notice the parts of the body connected to another surface. Perhaps that's your hands resting on your lap, feet and legs connected to the floor, face touching the air, or clothing touching the skin of your body. Pause and notice. If the eyes have been closed, option to open them. You can certainly keep them closed. And we'll just take our hands and just gently, lightly start shaking them out. So you might lift up off your legs or off what they're touching so that they can move freely. Fingers, hands, wrists. Just a really gentle shake up. You'll take your palms, you'll place them together, fingertips placed together, elbows out to the side. And from here, we'll start pointing the fingers in front of us and then back towards us. So just 3 from the side. Hands tip forward and then back. So the fingertips reach out towards the land in front of us and then point back towards our chest and heart area. So we're just gently rotating the wrists. Forearm follows along. It's a movement between the wrist and elbow. Gentle, smooth. Come back to center, and the hands will move slightly from side to side, so one hand presses into the other. Going in both directions. This is often quite a subtle movement, creating a bit of stretch in the underneath part of the forearm, along the bottom of the wrist. So left hand presses into right hand, then right hand presses into left hand. A subtle movement that can often have stronger sensations associated with it. Doing this to wake up into the hands and wrists, arms, shoulders, and also relieve some tension that often accumulates in these areas from, we'll do a little bit of shake out again, from computer use, cell phone use, driving, a lot of the common activities that we do. So we'll start to intertwine the breath and the motion so that they're integrated. So to start, we'll take our fingertips, place them together, and there's a slight space between the palms. As you inhale, draw from the elbows out to the sides, and the space between the palms and fingertips increases. And as you exhale, the elbows start to drop back down, and the fingers and palms come closer together. And we'll breathe to open, extend outwards from the elbows to fingertips. And exhale as we release and come back together. So this expansion and contraction of the hands and arms is aligned with the breath. Inhale, the body fills with air, and there's more space between the hands. And exhale, the body releases the air and the space contracts. For this and all following movements, go no faster or no slower than you can stay connected with the motion. So my modeling is just one option. You may prefer to move faster or slower. And use discernment to choose which that is based on where you can stay connected. Release the arms down to the sides. Exhale any air you have in your lungs. Breathe in, arms reach out, palms face up. Coming up overhead to your range of motion, you might reach all the way up, or you might come into more of a U position. And then you're going to exhale from whatever your top position is. Palms face in as your hands glide down the center line of the body. So breathe in, palms face up. And exhale. The hands face into the body, trace the center line. So these full body breaths, tracing the field of the whole upper body. Breath coordinated with motion. Take one more at whatever speed you're at, and more complete full breath. And as the hands sweep down the center line of the body and come to the area of your navel, you'll just reverse. So you'll breathe in, the hands will draw up the center line. And as you exhale, hands, arms, elbows open out to the side. Smooth and steady. No faster, no slower. Then you can stay connected with the motion. Hands sweep up the center line of the body. And fingertips radiate out towards the side. Inhale to draw in nourishment, connection, vibrance. Exhale for release, a letting go, and a letting be. Let's take one more. Hands can come to rest. Palms face down on the legs. Palms face down in the belly. Or one hand on heart to feel the heart beating. One hand on belly to feel yourself breathing. Eyes can soften or close. So we pause for just a moment. Pause integrates the movement. Integrates the breath and the mind. You release the hands. We will continue to align the breath with very simple, repetitive movements. So take an inhale, sitting up tall, elongated spine. And exhale, hands and arms reach forward. Backs of the hands come to touch as the chin tucks, head comes forward, tailbone scoops and spine rounds. Inhale, the elbows draw back along the sides, palms face down, shoulder blades come together, chest lifts, chin lifts. Exhale, round the spine. Very gently, the backs of the hands come together, chin tucks, belly squeezes towards the spine, and release. Elbows come back. Forearms parallel along the side, shoulders down and back, chest lifts, chin lifts. So you're moving in this direction, flexing and extending the spine, coordinating breath and motion at your own pace. Smooth and steady. What might you underdo slightly? Can you go slightly below your range of motion? Maybe perhaps an easier speed. What is it like to let go and let be a little bit of the striving? A little bit of, excuse me, working at full capacity. And see what it's like to underdo just a little bit. And bring the hands back to the palms. So move to a flexion and extension of the spine. Now we'll go into a slight twisting motion. So from here, the idea is that your spine begins to twist from the base, from the bottom of the spine upwards. In the motion, that would rotate like a spiral staircase. And so you want to think about activating the twist, which is a very gentle twist from the navel area and moving up. And then the head and neck are just going to follow very subtly. There's a lot of mobility in the head and neck, and we can often crank from one side to the next. And we're going to see here again in the spirit of underdoing, if we can let that just be so gentle, so subtle. So reestablish your seated position. Perhaps if you had your legs crossed, you want to cross them in the other direction, or fluff up your cushion and just reestablish this steady, symmetric position. So take an in-breath here. As you exhale, one arm crosses over, so I'm taking my right arm across the body, fingertips come to the left leg, and as I exhale, I start to spin and spiral gently from the navel through the mid-back, shoulders, spine, neck, and head. I inhale, come back to center, and exhale, the left fingertips come to the right leg, spiraling from the navel, mid-back, shoulders, neck, and finally head. Inhale to come to center. And we'll continue spiraling in each direction. Gentle movements. No faster, no slower. You can stay really, really connected. In breath in the center, exhale as you rotate. Try one more in each direction. Smooth and steady. And release. Pause for just a moment. And with the tip of your nose, we're going to draw tiny circles, very gentle, as if you had a pencil on the tip of your nose where you could draw circles. This releases the occipital area. It is gentle though, so if you feel any popping, cracking, tension, tightness in muscles, back off. Very important for this to be definitely underdone, definitely below capacity. Moving with gentleness will help the subtle relaxation and energy release. And reverse direction. Let the breath move slow and steady as the head comes to stillness, and we'll move into shoulder rolls. We'll go in both directions, so you can start in either direction, whatever feels to you. And let the arms and hands dangle down from the shoulders. As the shoulders move up, see how close they can get to your ears. Reverse direction. No specific breath coordination here, however, you want to stay in touch with your breath. Let it move smooth and steady. Let the range of motion be slightly under capacity. And at the speed where you can stay connected. Release the shoulder rolls, clasp the hands together. To the extent possible, bring your elbows to touch or towards touching. And we'll start to circle through the wrists. Reverse direction. And release the hands down. Finally, we'll bring these large circular motions into the hips. Some stirring motion. And here, the sits bones that you've been sitting so symmetrically on those two bony structures underneath the buttocks, you'll start to feel as you churn and stir that the weight shifts from one to the next, and you're a bit like pivoting around the bottom of these bones. And reverse direction. Keep the breath moving. Let's come into stillness. Eyes soft or closed. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Sigh it out through the mouth. One more deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, sigh out completely. Pause in stillness. Notice, observe how you feel. Without a need to do or change, just simply a letting be. If the eyes are closed, allow them to open. And at the speed of 3 slow breaths for you, take this time to as gracefully and kindfully and mindfully, bodyfully move up into a standing position. So in whatever way serves you, just use it as an exploration to move with ease, and more than anything else, treat your body with kindness. You make your way carefully and slowly to a standing position. Hands can come to the belly, palms face in. Feet equally distributed, weight on both feet. So we're still in a symmetrical stance. The kneecaps can be relaxed while the quadriceps have a little bit of fullness and engagement to them. Sacral lumbar soften, hips soften, sternum lifts, shoulder blades move towards one another. Elongation in the neck created by space between the shoulders and earlobes, chin tucked slightly. And gaze is right in front of you or eyes closed. And in this totally new relationship to gravity, just notice, how does the body feel? Legs feel, feet feel. Is the brow soft? And notice what's going on in the jaw. And open the eyes, release the hands down, and start gently swaying from side to side. Hands and fingertips can gently tap the body, the sides or behind you, the kidney area. And from this standing posture, we'll experience some of the same motions in our spine, but in a new relationship to gravity. So this will further train our awareness of our bodies, as well as lubricate the joints and the suppleness of the spine. And we'll slowly unwind, come back to center. With hands on hips or down by the sides, we'll start hip circling here. Up to you whether you want to bend the knees or keep them straight, or try a little bit of both. So here the weight spins and distributes along the feet. So you might feel as your hips go to the back, the weight tends towards the heels. As you come around to the sides of your feet are activated in reverse direction. So when sitting, the way you felt your body twirl around the sits bones is similar to the way that you're feeling your feet adjust and change and support the movements of the body. And release, come back to center. I'm going to take my feet and step them out a bit more, and my feet are about 45 degrees. The toes are about 45 degrees to the side. So we're going to be coming into some bends. So you'll want to choose a position that feels pretty grounded and stable to you. I tend to go for a wider stance with my feet slightly turned out because that's just the structure of my lower body. So you'll choose what feels good. And if there's any strain as you go, that's a signal to readjust. So from this position, feet pressed into the ground, tailbone, sacral, hips feel like a little bit heavier, a little dropped. Open broadness in the chest. And we'll start taking these breaths to the side as we breathe in, up overhead, and the hands glide down the center line of the body as you exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. As you exhale, the hands come down the center line of the body, bend the knees. Inhale to reach out to the side, knees straighten, arms and hands lift. Exhale to bend down. Hands glide down the center line of the body. Full body breathing. And as you take the air in, imagine that you were drawing it all the way down through the throat, through the ribs, through the belly, downward toward the hips and pelvis, through the legs, and as if the exhale were through the feet into the ground. After your next breath, as the palms glide down the front of the body, you'll inhale, coming up the center line, palms face in, legs straight and reach out to the side, and exhale. Knees bend, arms come down. Inhale up the center line, and exhale to release. So the reverse of this full body breathing. Under capacity, underdo. Move at a speed that feels connective for you. And after the next breath, arms can rest by the sides. Straighten the legs and stack the feet a bit closer together. Toes generally pointed straight ahead, again feeling very symmetrical in the body. And pause here. Take an inhale. As you exhale, let the hips sink, knees bend slightly as the arms reach forward, back of the hands touch, chin tucks. And then elbows come back, palms are parallel to the ground, legs straighten. Sternum lifts. Exhale, back the palms come together. Inhale, draw back, straighten the legs. Exhale. And inhale. One more. And release down. Pause for just a moment. Notice the symmetry of your body, feet on the ground, fingertips pointed down. Check on the status of your jaw and of your brow. We'll take the hands, lift them above the center area, the kind of abdomen, navel area for body. Palms are facing in. And we're just going to breathe in, pulse out slightly, and breathe out, the pulse comes in. So inhale and exhale. Sometimes I like to straighten my knees on the inhale and bend them slightly on the exhale. Just pulsing the arms to the center field of the body. Smooth and steady at the pace that allows you to stay connected. So option to stay with this pulsing, or if you'd like to add a bit of a spiral rotation, you can add that on as well. So as you exhale, the hands come in. As you inhale, they pulse out. And then if you'd like to try the rotation, as you exhale, one hand points to the side, the other down. Then inhale back to center. Exhale. Inhale. So my left hand is pushing down towards the ground, my right hand across the body, coming up on the ball of my right foot. This is all my exhale. The spine is gently, slightly twisted. As I inhale, I come back through center. And exhale, right palm towards the ground, left palm towards the side, coming up on the back of my left foot. So inhale through center. And exhale, gently rotate, spiral the spine. Inhale through center. Exhale to the other side. One more in each direction. And release. Hand on the heart, hand on the belly. Eyes soften or eyes close. Pause for a moment. And then even more gently than you lifted yourself up from the floor to standing, you'll place yourself back down from a standing into a seated position. So you can release the hands, and over about 3 cycles of breath, move yourself down to the floor, using grace of the body, the mind, and apply lots of gentleness and kindness. And from here, we're going to continue moving downward into final relaxation. So should it suit you to stay seated for a relaxation time, please feel free to do that. Others may choose to lie down on the back in a traditional Shavasana, which would be the legs extended and the arms extended and the head in alignment with the spine. You might choose that it is more comfortable to have the soles of feet on the ground, knees point up, perhaps even in constructive rest where the knees collapse in towards each other and the hands are on the belly. It's a wonderful option to lie on the side. It can be comfortable to curl up in a ball. It can also be very nice to lay on the belly. If you're doing that, you might take the hands, place them one on top of the other, and the head can be down on the hands like a pillow. And of course, staying seated is also an option. Really, the most important thing about yoga rest is that you're completely comfortable, that you're able to soften and relax the body, that you feel safe, that you feel steady. And it's someplace where you can be at rest for a few minutes. So take some time in this yoga rest in silence. This allows us to integrate and absorb the practice. Even though there's energy inside us moving and absorbing. And in a few moments, you'll hear my voice again, and I'll bring us out of practice together. In these final moments of relaxation, if there's anything that you can let be even more, sense of release, sense of surrender, underdoing, it is welcome. And paired with that, letting be, might be a sense that you could wrap yourself up in the kindest sense, like a blanket of gratitude or appreciation for yourself, for the work that you do in the world, for the showing up for other people, for the care of yourself. Wrap yourself in an appreciation for all that you are in this moment and all the moments of your life. Take a deep breath into the nose. Sigh it out through the mouth. And with the most care that you have moved your body in any way today, please, over the next 3 breaths, if you feel ready to complete the practice, use these 3 breaths to as kindly as possible come back into a seated position. If you'd like to continue to rest, of course, please feel free to do so. And those of you moving up to seated, slowly, kindly, with awareness, with loving awareness, find a seated position that is comfortable for just a moment of closing. When you arrive, the eyes can be closed or a slight soft gaze downward. Sitting as you are, you might choose to place the right hand over the heart and left hand on top of that right hand, so that both hands are caressing and embracing above your heart area. And recall a sense of appreciation, whether it be for yourself or something else that has happened, for somebody, for a beautiful moment, a favorite song, poem, delicious food. Whatever for you brings up a feeling of aliveness, warmth, gratitude. Hold that in your heart space, in your mind's eye. And let it radiate out through the body. A real felt sense of what does it feel like to appreciate, to enjoy something. To bring something to mind that gives you life. Take a deep breath into the nose. Sigh it out through the mouth. The hands are on the heart, they release. Eyes might gently open. And this concludes our practice together. Thank you for spending some time with me and with Hands to Heart Center in Boston Public Library for the Friday afternoon Unwind Yoga. Wishing you a wonderful evening and rest of the day. Take good care.